What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the collaboration album between Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga. Basically, this project is called Cheek to Cheek, and it came out in the late summer of 2014. So this particular project, this is typical of like, this is a particular project that takes it back to like the 60s swinging type days as far as pitches like that kind of happen. More of like the Frank Sinatra type days, some of those type fairs. It's like a jazz pop kind of particular project. It's a different pitch for Lady Gaga compared to some of her projects like the Fame Monster, Art Pop, and Born This Way, some of those type pitches. But I don't know a super ton about Tony Bennett, but I do know that they at least did two albums. Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett did two particular projects, and I do like some of that 60s swinging type sound. I don't know it is full blown, but I would have to say this is a good album here. This definitely some excellent type quality. Makes me question some of the stuff that kind of happened. Makes me question some quality albums out of like the late 50s, 60s, some of those type pitches as far as that particular kind of goes. Because this is, I do like the nightlife on this particular fair, just the particular appeal behind it, the swinging type mentality as far as pitches like that kind of happen. Good, interesting type pitch to kind of get here. Definitely very New York Broadway type style as far as I would kind of go. Just things of that nature. Just kind of more sophisticated, like suited up, kind of more tuxedo type music as far as that particular kind of happens. But I do like the appeal behind it. Definitely, I mean, this has like the appeal of nightlife, but me more thinking of folks like Michael Bublé with like a more vintage type pitch as far as like something from folks who were actually around back and making music back in the mid 60s or 70s as far as pitches like that kind of happens. It's a good appeal to kind of get this. So this is a different taste of like an album here to kind of say a look after it's more traditional pop as far as that particular kind of happens, but I do like the appeal behind it. So basically there were a couple singles out this particular product. The quality of this album is here, I would have to say. I do like I mean, because I don't know a ton about jazz pop type albums and swinging type music, I'd have to say I look after, because I don't know a ton about jazz pop type albums and 60s swinging type music, I'd have to say I would have to suppose that for what I mean, like typical format, I do feel like the more up tempo type moments overpower like some of the other type ones, but it does have like some good piano type beats on here as far as that particular kind of happens. I do like it's not necessarily like a moody album, but it just kind of has like the pitch of just like that glare of like something noir like, something like that. It's very East Coast like, I'd have to say, not just to say in like a rap sense, but just kind of the concept of being more New York bound, just kind of within the concept. Reminds me of places like Las Vegas, reminds me of places like, you know, Brooklyn, New York, some of those type fairs as far as that would particularly kind of happen. Philadelphia, some of those type places, just more litty type places where there'd be like, you know, like aristocratic, I would have to say, as far as that particular kind of happens, just within that more atmosphere of some of that. But I like the concept of at least getting that to that particular concept, because for like 2014, there just weren't a ton of folks. I can't really think of too many folks apart from maybe Michael Bublé and maybe like a touch of other folks, maybe in like a blue-eyed soul type sense, you would think of someone like John Mayer, but just the concept of someone that's doing this sort of music circa mid-late 2014 and early 2015, it was just a different pitch, just a definite breath of fresh air that had a lot of appeal about it, just a different concept compared to like decades before that was really prominent, I have to say. So it's just a good concept to kind of be like a reminder that some of this is pretty wicked to kind of get just within that sense. So it's a good appeal. Lady Gaga, despite the fact that she wasn't around in that decade, is a pretty good concept to kind of see her do that particular style and pull it off. And Tony Bennett continues to do it despite the fact that he might have been in his late 70s, 80s as far as pitches like that kind of happened around that time. So I look at it as just a good appeal to kind of have some of that nice contemporary type project. The thing about this particular product is it doesn't show its age in terms of like the way it kind of happens. I mean, it's retro, it's throwback to like 60s, 70s as far as that kind of happens, but it's just the appeal behind it that some of these are just kind of, I want to say that New York is probably like this, and within a certain sense, just when I think of like rap music, just having like some of that East Coast sampling that kind of goes along with some of that type fare. When you think of like those Don Cannon, DJ Drama type sampling type ones off of like more East Coast prominent type ones that just kind of had more jazzy pep in your step pitches like that. Is just kind of the concept of some of that soul that kind of goes along with this. Just kind of the roots kind of bled down to that as far as that particular kind of went. So it's just that kind of stepping. You know, you would think of folks like Wu Tang and some of those type of folks that probably sampled the initial folks that the folks they probably sampled folks that got influence from some of these folks from New York background those times. So I look after it's just kind of a concept, but it is a pretty noteworthy project here. Definitely some quality. So I just look after it. Yeah, there were two singles on here. Yeah, there were two singles on here. These are pretty peppy as far as that particular kind of happens. So Anything Goes is the first single. This is like a Friday night kind of Broadway-like suave out on the town. I would definitely feel like it's like some snazzy kind of bright lights music. I would definitely have to say, and this is some good evening pizzazz. This is like the Kickstarter to the album. This would probably be a good starting point for this particular album as far as that kind of happens. Tony Bennett with the vintage sound as far as that particular kind of happens, and Lady Gaga with the new type of sound as far as that would kind of happen with it. It's just kind of a different taste for pop music as far as that kind of happens circa these particular times. But I look after it, the appeal behind it is particularly there is just some good kind of just very much play oriented type music, this tuxedo stepping out just within that relative sense, this kind of swinging type mentality. It's a different taste. I would almost say blue bud, but I like the concept of just being able to say switching up the flow a little bit and just kind of stepping out in a more graceful type sense. I do like the concept. It makes me question how this sort of format would kind of work in places where there's not necessarily like more kind of aristocratic type nightclubs as far as that pitching goes. I mean, if you're just going to like Arby's or something, or if you're just going to like Subway, some of those type pitches, or just like a standard kind of sports bar, something like that, it's not going to have that same taste. But it's just kind of the concept. I do definitely feel like for East Coast bound, some of those Liddy type nights and just more kind of gentleman type bar type place as far as that particular kind of happens, it does have that appeal. It's the vanilla type one, a good starting point for that. I Can't Give You Anything But Love is a nice one. Now, I like this song quite a bit. This is probably one of my more favorite songs off this particular album. I like this one more than Anything Goes, but both the singles are pretty damn good, I'd have to say. But I look after this one. It's like a jazz bar, kind of slosh feeling good type song, I would have to say in particular. It's like a foot tapper, I would definitely feel like, and it's like a glared kind of late night groove. So this one just reminds me of something back in the 50s, 60s when there probably would have been cigarette smoke all over the place, pitches like that, just beer mugs, some of that type of era. I look after. I mean, obviously, I think within this album, it's not as full blown, like to the point of just getting torn up, full blown out of your mind. But I definitely think some of the outing, you can definitely have like some good times, feel a little bit tipsy and just overall warped as far as that particular kind of happens. See, it's just kind of the concept as to how that would kind of go. There are some jazz bar songs on here. I feel like I Can't Give You Anything But Love is a nice one for that. Like I was saying, it's the real glare type one, just real after effect. Probably one you'd listen to at 2:30, 3 a.m. as like the bar and places like that are starting to close. But there's some other ones. Like I feel like It Don't Mean a Thing is a good one, a nice one for that. And there's probably like a couple other ones like Firefly's a pretty good one for that, and possibly Goody Goody. But just some good pitches kind of get some of that. So this is kind of the appeal. Just really like the after effect of some of that type fare. Just good one to kind of have some. I Can't Give You Anything But Love is a good one to get crunk to. I'd have to say in a more suave type sense. So it's a good concept for that. So yeah, just to talk about the melodies on here. So basically, I feel like because I don't know too many 60s swingers, and because I don't know too many 60s swingers and jazz type music as far as that pitch kind of goes, I feel like Tony Bennett kind of feels like a token and kind of vanilla 60s pop artist as far as that particular kind of happens. But it's not to say it's good music here. It's just kind of the concept. I just don't have the varieties to be able to list various names as far as saying. I mean, I don't know to compare him to Frank Sinatra or some of those type folks in particular. I just can't think of offhandedly. That's just kind of concept. It is a pretty good style to get some of this, and I'd like the concept of seeing Lady Gaga acclimate to some of these particular type sounds. But Tony Bennett sounds on point with some of this. Just another stock victory lap for him as far as that particular kind of goes along with it. But yeah, I'm reviewing the deluxe edition of this album, which has 15 songs, and out of those 15, I wound up recommending 9. But on the standard edition, I wound up recommending 8 out of 11. So I think in most cases, there's at least one song out of the 4 extra songs that they add on the deluxe edition. The only song I recommend out of those 4 songs would be Goody Goody, which the 4 songs that they add to like the deluxe edition would be Don't Wait Too Long, Goody Goody, Every Time We Say Goodbye, and They All Laugh. So the particular thing about that, I mean, it's kind of here and there worth it, but I would probably just buy that particular song digitally, Goody Goody, as far as that pitch kind of goes. But just being able to say, go ahead and recommend the 9 songs out of 15 I recommend on here, and just to say that the deluxe score is going to be a bit worse than like the actual standard score. The standard score is going to actually get a relatively higher score. I'd say pretty on the cusp of being like an arguable, damn near close to getting in classic range. I'd say it's just within the concept of it. But 8 out of 11 is definitely pretty damn good. So the 9 songs to recommend on here would be Anything Goes, I Can't Give You Anything But Love, Goody Goody, Firefly, I Won't Dance, Sophisticated Lady, Let's Face the Music and Dance, It Don't Mean a Thing If It Ain't Got That Swang, and Cheek to Cheek. So talk about some of these songs I didn't recommend on here. Like some of these type ones, just like Don't Wait Too Long, Nature Boy, Every Time We Say Goodbye. Don't Wait Too Long, Nature Boy, Every Time We Say Goodbye, Lush Life, some of these type ones. Some of these are just more house cleaning type music and just more down tempo type ones where just the amalgamation is probably just me having to do with being less amalgamated towards 60s swinging type music as far as that particular one goes. But I just didn't see the appeal of too many of these just within the aspect of just when the tempo kind of switches up just for something more endearing and just more than just the concept of just a festive kind of social night and just a buzz kind of night as far as that particular kind of goes. But I look after it. This is kind of feel like the production type fare of some of these type ones. Just I mean, there's only so much you can do keeping it within the 60s type style as far as having it be like a Blue Eyed Soul and kind of more jazz pop type project, but then not within the up tempo type moments. I just look after it. Maybe it just takes a little bit more getting used to, but I just didn't see like the affable type snap of some of these type ones as far as the compellingness to really get towards it. It's just kind of the thing I look after. And some of these are just a little bit more homely bound just within that pitch, but I just didn't see like the full blown kind of appeal, just like how much affability behind it. But I look after it. Moreover, it was the Lady Gaga solo songs in that particular tip more so than the Tony Bennett. Like I like Sophisticated Lady. That was a nice, endearing kind of one. More kind of just like dreary, kind of lounge ruminating as far as that pitch goes. I feel like that particular concept of getting one that just kind of feels like an after effect of just being at the bar solo, something like that, and just kind of ruminating on your girl as far as pitches like that kind of happen. I would look after. But I kind of look after it like Don't Wait Too Long was kind of a similar fashion to some of these type ones that just didn't have like too much of the spark about that. But there's some other ones on there that kind of did that, like But Beautiful. Then there was at least one up tempo song that I didn't recommend either, which is just They All Laugh, which that one just was kind of, I mean, that's a more typical type fashion, like some of these more snappy type ones. But I look after it, just didn't really. This is one that I just didn't see the full blown. This is one where I just didn't see the full blown kind of appeal of as much. I mean, I like the topic of this particular song, They All Laugh, but I just didn't see the appeal behind that one as much. That's this kind of thing. But we'll talk about some of these ones I do recommend on here, kind of get into these complaints a little bit more. I mean, this is a good album, just despite the fact that I talk about the complaints first. This is a real good album, just the pitch behind it. Pretty much on the cusp of being like an arguable classic as far as that particular one goes. Definitely has more hot to trot type moments than it does, and I would definitely have to say just some good overall appeals and a good social snap, very festive, very lively pitches like that. It's a good aspect to kind of get some of this very endearing, kind of breathes new life into like the 60s swing type genre as far as pitches like that kind of happen. It's a good update on that. So a nice one on here would be Goody Goody. It's like a peppy kind of jazz groove, I'd have to say. It's like a getting ready to step out kind of initial kickoff, I'd have to say. Pretty good concept for that, and it goes well with Anything Goes. The song definitely goes well with Anything Goes. So there's a number of songs on here I just would have to say a lot of these, not to say that they're similar, these songs are similar. Some ones on here, Goody Goody, Firefly, I Won't Dance. I would say Let's Face the Music and Dance, It Don't Mean a Thing. Some of these type ones, they do have pretty similar type fashions. A lot of these are going to be stock type ones. I feel like the most vanilla one, the kickoff type one would be Anything Goes, but Goody Goody's like a more peppy type version of that one. It's a little bit more of a foot tapper, not quite as like ferocious as Anything Goes, but just within this one's a little bit earlier in the night. I'd have to say, I'd say Anything Goes is more like the 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock p.m. Been there for a little bit, but then Goody Goody's like the initial type one, 5:36 p.m. as you're getting ready to get there. Firefly's a nice one. Firefly's a pretty nice one. It's like a later on in the night, kind of late winded outing. I would have to say in particular, it's like some jazz bar drive continued. I would definitely have to say good concept to kind of go along with I Can't Give You Anything But Love. It's definitely like a good one to get nachos, bring up the tab, and dance a little bit. I'd have to say in particular. So it's just a good concept for that. This is kind of a dance album. I do feel like there's some dance songs on here, whether just feeling the groove songs like I Can't Give You Anything But Love, or actually dancing a little bit with songs like Anything Goes, Goody Goody, some of those type ones. It's a good pitch. A lot of this should get you out your seat in a more traditional type sense. It's more ballroom type dance as far as that would particularly kind of happen. I like the appeal behind some of these. Fireflies is another good example of that. A lot of these are pretty interchangeable throughout the night, with like a night shift. That is how that particularly kind of happens with this. I look after the concept, some good stuff. Traditional kind of pop type hit, I would have to say. I Won't Dance is another nice one. It's like a bright lights kind of big night step out, I would have to say. Definite payday type feeling. Definite good payday type song, I'd have to say. Feeling good and energized type song to kind of get here. It's like a stock kind of suave outing cut, I would have to say. So it's just the concept. Like a lot of these, you can keep listening to these songs to kind of have more descript type things, but it's just the concept. A lot of these are just going to be real interchangeable as far as pitch like that kind of happen. Just the real pitch behind. I mean, these songs are good. It's just kind of the concept. If you're a fan of 60s swinging type style pitches like that, it's a good concept to kind of see some of these. It's just it's basically like 2014 rendition of some of that, just within that quality fare. Some good grooves and overall quality jazz pop as far as a lot of these pitches kind of happen. Sophisticated Lady's a nice one. This is a Tony Bennett solo song. Appreciate this one rather well. It's like an after hours kind of lounge ruminating of a song, I'd have to say. It's like a cozy kind of autumn brush, I would feel like. And it's like some solid late day makeshift, I would have to say. And it's some good kind of, it's like some solid kind of late day makeshift wind down, I would have to say. So it's a commerce type song and kind of getting like a certain sense. I mean, some of this can kind of be at the lounge, I would almost suppose, within that relative sense. But I also look after it. It's kind of like the wind down of disc, long day, long night pitches like that. Just the after effect of disc going home, as far as that would particularly kind of happen. Just look after the concept behind it. Standard night drear, as far as that particularly kind of goes. I mean, this is not too much like a makeshift album. I look after it. I mean, you have to. I don't note it as much. A lot of these songs on here have a more festive kind of bite of night, which I do appreciate quite a bit. But the concept, some of this almost does kind of have, like if you're just listening into in the whip, as far as that particular kind of goes, just the after effects of just like whether or not it can be just got done with work shift. I mean, I feel like most of this is not necessarily like 10 o'clock in the morning kind of target in between getting brunch, some of those type things. But I look after it like the concept of just if it's like 7 o'clock p.m. and you're getting ready to go to like a coffee shop, a coffee bar, something like that, or get ready to head out to like once again, like an aristocratic type pub, something like that, more quality kind of places like that, just some good grooves, Broadway type place. If you're on the East Coast, some of those type fairs, it works for that relative sense. It's a more, yeah, it's big city, bright lights type fair, I'd say, about a lot of this project. It works for well. I think the social score of this album is going to get rather high, I'd say relatively high. Let's Face the Music and Dance is a nice one. It's like a bubbling kind of quality step out, and this is a good pairing with I Won't Dance, I would definitely have suppose, and this is some good social snap, I'd have to say. It's another stock one as far as that particular kind of happens with it. Tony Bennett, Lady Gaga do some good jobs with this particular song as far as that kind of happens with it. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got the swing. This one probably feels like it could have been a single. I would have probably chosen this one to have been like the third single as far as that particular kind of goes. I don't know if some of these songs are like cover songs or if these are former songs on like a previous Tony Bennett album. I've noticed that a lot of these are clickable on Wikipedia, so it means to say that there were probably articles written about them, so they might have been previous songs or something like that. These might be throwback songs to more songs from the 60s or something like that, but I look after it. I do want to say that it don't mean a thing if it ain't got the swing. It's like a good jazz bar and kind of venue noise of a song. I definitely have to say it's like a good bout of jive about this particular one. It's like a nice dance cut, I would have to say, and it's like a good get crunk song and enjoy. This is another good nice one to kind of have some drinks in your system, some pitches like that. I'd say pretty similar to like I Can't Give You Anything But Love, some of those type ones. I mean, it has the dance on here. I feel like It Don't Mean a Thing and I Won't Dance and Let's Face the Music. I mean, obviously with these songs having the word dance in them, it has the concept about that, but just some of those type pitches, just yeah, It Don't Mean a Thing is a good dance cut along with I Won't Dance and Let's Face the Music and Dance and probably some other type ones. Firefly, Goody Goody, some of those type ones. So it's pretty jivey type project to kind of get here. Definitely should get you out your seat and easily dancing with some chicas as far as pitches like that kind of happen. Just overall type fair, quality retro type throwback type stuff to kind of get. I mean, and it is a breath of fresh air. I would have to say within that concept compared to like the standard stuff that was going on around this time, like Uptown Funk and All About That Bass by Megan Trainor, some of those type ones, some of the Justin Timberlake type songs. Folks like you had Ty Dolla Sign popping around that time, and like Wiz Khalifa dropping hit songs, some of those type folks, and trying to think of some other folks from 2014. Two Chainz had some good bops, some of those type folks. Drake, Lil Wayne. I just look Nicki Minaj with Anaconda, I'd have to say. So it's just kind of a good concept, kind of get some of that. But I look after like the appeal, some of this. It's overall quality stuff. Cheek to Cheek is a nice one as well. This is kind of more, this one does not have like the sheer kind of ferocious type energy, but it's another night outing type one. It's like a good coffee shop noise of a song, I'd have to say. Is like some Winter Brush, I would definitely feel like. Good night commerce and like a mid-paced tempo kind of air and run type song, I'd have to say. And it's pretty typical kind of commerce day type fair, I'd have to say. So I feel like some of these type ones, Cheek to Cheek, Sophisticated Lady, some of those type ones, maybe a little bit of Anything Goes, have some relative commerce about them just for like the standard fare of like excitement for getting ready to have like a glitzy kind of night. So yeah, basically once again, just like an update of like 60s kind of traditional pop type sound as far as that would kind of happen with it. But in terms of score, I'm going to give this album, me recommending 9 out of 15 songs in the deluxe edition. I'm going to go ahead and give the deluxe edition like a 7.25 out of 10, but the standard edition where I recommend 8 out of 11 songs were the only 3 songs I don't recommend. But where the only 3 songs I don't recommend out of 11 would just be Nature Boy, Lush Life, and But Beautiful. I would have to say the standard edition I'm going to give of this album like an 8.5 out of 10. So it's pretty damn definitely pretty damn good as far as pitches like that kind of goes. Definitely a thrilling type album, I would have to say. Has the concept of being litty, pitches like that. Just the concept of just some good foot tappers on here. Definitely some good dance noise, some winter brush. I feel like this is kind of a winter oriented type album, something to listen to around the time when it came out, past late September to about January, February, March, as far as pitches like that kind of go. Just throughout the holidays, some of that type fare, some good hoodie and sweater type music, pitches like that, I'd have to say. Some good social step out in the overall jazz bar and places like that, I would kind of go. I definitely feel like this is a booming kind of East Coast album highlight. I would definitely have to say just some of that type of feel if you're just going to like more just places, Boston, Philadelphia, some of those type places, like Boston, Philadelphia, New York, some of those type places, standard fare around some of those type places in particular. I would definitely look after just some good concepts. So I look after it. That's the quality behind this particular album. Tony Bennett was pretty much on fire on this particular project. Lady Gaga mostly did good on here. It's not to say that she was not doing good. It's just kind of the concept of the solo songs that just were just within a different tone as far as that kind of went. And I mean that's the thing about the complaint about this project. It's just the fact that it just is a it's moreover that this is just a balanced project more so than it actually being bad. It's just kind of the concept of me looking after some of the songs like the Lady Gaga solo songs on here when I think of Lush Life and then like the other one, Lush Life, and then Every Time We Say Goodbye, some of these type ones is just more of like a balance of not just having strictly turn up type things, just to have a little bit more completion and more balance of an album. I would have to say it was just kind of the concept that if you're not kind of with it, I mean, it's just more suited to folks that are more within that natural habitat of saying, I mean, if you own probably more than 20, 50, 20, 30, 40 type 60s swinging type albums, I would definitely say that a lot of these should feel more at home. But it's just kind of the concept that a lot of these just didn't feel as contemporary as far as that particular pitch kind of happened. It's just kind of, I mean, it's the same thing I think with standard R&B albums. Like when I think of like Christina Aguilera's album, something like that, when I had more problems with like the ballads, some of that type, it's the same concept. Even in the 60s, this was kind of the concept as far as that particular kind of went, I'd have to say. Just kind of the thing about it, but it just is kind of it just has a different format of just appreciation for having more things to do than just social snap. It's this kind of thing. But I look after it, so that's just kind of the concept about that. So in terms of the future, like unfortunately Tony Bennett is deceased, but Lady Gaga is at least working on new music from what I was saying. Apparently she had said on Instagram that she's got some more projects to kind of get to as far as pitches like that kind of happen. But there's a follow-up Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga project to get to. I'll have to get that. I'll have to get to that at some point as far as time goes along. We'll get to some more of these. I am going to get to some more Lady Gaga projects and possibly, I mean, I question about some of those Tony Bennett projects from like the 60s as far as that particular fair kind of goes. The fact that this was his 58th album as far as that particular kind of happens is an interesting pitch kind of get that. So just questioning him from some of his prime years as far as that would kind of happen, just kind of being able to say, like some of the hits that would probably be within that contemporary type sound, just a question about. I wonder some of the singles and some of that type fare, but I had to say it's a good concept for that. It's a pretty balanced album. It does deliver, and I think within certain senses there may be some folks that probably think the score hits higher for folks that remember some of these sounds or remember some of these sounds or are acclimated to some of these type sounds to kind of say that this provides the balance of just being able to appreciate like the up tempo, the down tempo type moments, all the balances and the angles as far as that particular kind of happens. But I look after it. This for the most part, this is a pretty glitzy social type project you're gonna get here. It's definitely got plenty of thrilling nightlife, plenty of good dance moments just to have for some jazz bar and just overall Broadway type step and East Coast type pizzazz and pitches like that, I have to say. So it's pretty good snap to kind of get. So I do recommend this project, and it is pretty above quality here. So I forgot to talk about the social score of this particular album, Cheek to Cheek. So I'm going to go ahead and give the social score of this album like a 9 out of 10. Pretty much on the cusp of getting like a full-blown classic type score. Definitely more than 9 or even 10. So definitely approximately 9 or 10 songs on this particular project. Definitely has some good jazzy kind of brush of just outing type fare. I just would have to say some good debonair and kind of ritzy step out as far as that particular kind of goes. Good for some East Coast kind of step out and just overall kind of just like groove and just overall jazz bar type bops as far as pitches like that kind of particular having some East Coast step outs, just some good appeal, just like some two-step type music, some pitches like that. I'd have to suppose it's a good amount of just social fare as far as that would kind of go. Good outing just for that sort of sense. Social snap, just great for Friday, Saturday, in a more 60s kind of traditional type sense of like standard pop from back in those days that I suppose. So it's just a good concept for that. Kind of look after it. Definitely like the appeal of some of this. Just would have to say, just really has some of that just within that sense. I mean, I feel like this album is just chock full of these. They didn't shy away from some of this particular one. I give it, like when I gave the score of this album like an 8.5 out of 10, just to kind of say it's just the concept that some of these just didn't translate quite as well as like the sound of just being used to it as far as that particular kind of goes, just for the affability behind like the production fare and some of those type ones was just a little bit softer, not quite as electric, I'd have to say. But I look after it. Most of this album pretty much 2/3 of this album is pretty much Friday, Saturday, Thursday night type step out to kind of get here. So it definitely has some pretty glitzy type appeal for that sort of just overall ferocious type fare.